ahead, Darren, please.
I'm just going to say that.
Preamp.
Thanks, Dusty. Sorry. And we are recording. Let's see. So the Essex Planning Commission has found that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Addendum 6 to Executive Order 01-20 and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to open meeting law, we confirm that we are providing public access to the meeting by video conference, with additional access offered through telephone. We are using Microsoft Teams for this remote meeting. All members of the Planning Commission have the ability to listen contemporaneously, to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through Teams, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if desired, participate in the meeting. Planning staff will provide instructions for public participation using Teams before the hearings are opened. We are providing public notice of instructions for accessing the meeting. Previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting on Teams with a computer, smartphone, or regular telephone in our posted meeting agenda. Instructions have also been provided on the town website at essexvt.org/agenda center. To get there, click on your government, agendas and minutes, and navigate to the desired meeting date. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please use the chat feature within Teams, which you can use by pressing Alt-H, or email or call OWISO at OMAKUKU, OMAKUKU at essex.org, or by phone at 802-878-1343. We are continuing the meeting if necessary. In the event that the public is unable to access this meeting, it will be continued to a time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. And we will start by taking attendance of all PC members participating in the meeting. And I apologize, Awiso, someday I will get your name right in this script.
David Raphael, present.
Ned Daly, present.
Joshua Knox, present.
John Alden, present.
John Mangan, present.
Dustin Brusso, present. Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone.
Richard Ledger, present.
Okay. So at this point, before we get started, I'm going to request that everyone participate in just presenting your oath on this. I'm going to state it for the record, and your agreement to participate will indicate that you're in agreement with the oath that we're going to ask at this point. And I would ask for staff to help me keep track of folks who come on after the fact. So for those that are attending, do you swear that any testimony you present this evening will be truthful to the best of your abilities?
Yes.
I do. Okay.
Yes.
And again, participation at this point will indicate that you are in agreement with this oath. So our agenda this evening, we have public comments to start with. We have a consent agenda item. We have a sketch site plan public hearing, and we have continued discussion on the ETC Next project. In public comments, that is an opportunity for anyone in the public to offer commentary to the Planning Commission for items that are not on the agenda. In addition, it's an opportunity for the public and the Planning Commission and the staff and the applicants to offer comment on consent agenda items, of which we have one. So at this point, I'm looking for any up. Go ahead, Ned.
I do have a couple of questions on the consent agenda item.
Okay.
In finding number 5, they list water and wastewater container. I guess my question number one is what will be in the waste and wastewater container? That's question number one. Secondly, scheduled pickup for removal shall occur on a weekly basis. I guess the question is, what determines that a weekly is often enough? And since we have wastewater on the site, would it be possible to have some kind of an alarm or float alarm in the wastewater container with a red light to let everybody know that, hey, it's time to pick up this wastewater? Anybody?
So if the applicant's here, if they want to respond again, we're in public comment section, so this is not at the point at which we're making decisions. This is
Yeah.
discussion.
So this is Sharon, and I probably will let Chad Riley, the applicant, speak to the pickups, but I can just tell you that at the zoning board, it was discussed that they're starting off with 1 week and they will increase that if the need arises. Also, I just wanted to point out that I did make amendments to the consent agenda draft letter since it was posted. You all should have received it via email. My changes are in red. And this resulted from an inquiry from Dave Simendinger, the landowner of Champlain Farms gas station, who had some concerns about the location. He did meet with Chad Riley today on the site and resolved all issues he had and wished him well and luck with this application. So again, you will see some changes to the findings and additions, I should say.
Okay.
So I guess I would look for Chad to speak, to answer the question about the pickups in the float alarm. So Chad, if you're listening, unmute yourself.
I think I did. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So if we get to a spot there, we have a pretty good sized tank that we're going to be dumping into. We're doing first is we're dumping it into a smaller tank. And then at the end of the day, we dump it into a bigger tank. That way we don't have food waste because we have to have food waste go into a separate barrel.
I didn't.
So it'll be definitely regulated daily on how much water's in there. So if we do get to a spot where we're like, well, it's getting kind of close, Bundy's is going to be removing the liquid from the holding tank.
A reminder, folks, if you're not speaking, please mute. David, did you have a question?
I did. So, and I know you're probably going to tell me there's nothing we can do about this, Sharon or Darren, but just a note that at line, and I know this comes out of the ZBA approval, but line 160 of the revised staff report, I'm just concerned. I have no problems with the app and no issues, but just an observation that a word like substantially different is not measurable. And if there's a comfort level that everyone else knows what that means, I just would have liked to have seen some sort of measurable number on what triggers letting Public Works be notified. I don't know what substantially, what triggers that, so.
I will make sure that going forward, they pin that down a little bit better. I think that Public Works has enough guys running the roads, if you will, so they're pretty in tune to what they know is normal and not normal. So I'm assuming that's where Public Works was coming from in this comment, but I will make sure that is clarified better in the future.
All right, thanks.
Sharon, did you have another question or comment? Your hand is raised.
My hand's still up? Okay, so there you go, sorry.
So I do have some comments, but I want to allow comments from any other commissioners or any members of the public or staff. Okay.
Can I make, and this is Ned, can I make another comment or question?
Yeah.
what will be going into the water and wastewater containers? It's just cooking waste? Is it, kitchen waste, washing waste, toilets, whatever? And
And
I hoped I implied that in my first question. Maybe
Well-
I didn't, but it hasn't been answered yet.
so again, we'll ask Chad to speak to that.
So this is Chad Riley. So what it's going to be is just sink water waste from washing dishes. And that's really all we're going to be having in there. What we have is the water goes into one tank. Like if we have food on a dish and it goes into the drain, the water goes into this one tank, and then we filter it. It goes in before it goes into another tank. And that's where it's going to get dumped out from there. So that way there's no food going into that other tank. It's just going to be water from washing dishes. And then the food.
Ned, again, I would assume then that you're going to have both of those tanks cleaned on a regular basis. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first tank will be cleaned daily. And because we'll have food residue in there, so we'll have to take that out daily and put it into the separate, I know I'm going to say this wrong, but it's the new law that we have that came out where we have to recycle food waste.
Compost.
Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. So the food that gets left in that first tank will be cleaned out at the end of the day to put into our compost bin that we have to have.
Ned, you good?
I'm good. I would still like to see a light and an alarm on that, especially given, the public location of this up in the so-called center of town. I worried about these kind of things up in a location like that.
So one thing we got to remember too is that we don't have jurisdiction over septic and waste. So just keep in mind. So that's a reasonable point.
I'm not sure if it's that we don't have jurisdiction over above ground septic and waste.
Okay.
I might question that.
Okay.
I feel that we do, because above ground it becomes a public. It's out in the public for us.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me hang on, Sharon. Let me ask you a question on that, Ned. Do you feel that there's enough ambiguity or open questions still left on that you would want to see this come in as a full application and not a consent agenda item? That's kind of what we're at right now. Think about that. I want to chime in on my concerns, consideration, whatever. And one, I do compliment, the applicant for bringing the detail in, putting the work into it and so forth. But I will say that from my perspective, that is an unacceptable use of that lot being that close to the Sand Hill Route 15 intersection. I know the traffic patterns coming off from Route 15, and having any vehicle stack up waiting to turn into that site, in my opinion, creates an unacceptable safety risk that elevates the traffic concerns that I have for that intersection significantly. So from my perspective, I would not endorse this application going forward. And I completely respect and appreciate the work and the effort that the applicant has gone into it. But I personally, for one, strictly for the safety reason and what I perceive as being a tremendously enhanced risk to the public, I cannot personally agree with moving this forward. But I'm one voice, so I just want to make that clear. That's completely my opinion. Sharon?
Thank you. I just wanted to remind you that zoning board condition is that they have to return to the zoning board in 2022 for a reconsideration for a couple of reasons. One is to see how it's going, and two, to see what the situation is with the improvements that are planned at that intersection. I just wanted to put that out as a reminder. Also, VTrans has weighed in, and as all the departments have, and no one has an issue, as you have seen with both the ZBA and the Planning Commission. Thank you.
It's Ned again. Do we have any idea what this is going to look like up in that prime location in town? We haven't seen any drawings or anything. Even though it's only going to be temporary, now we're telling me it's going to be temporary for at least 2 years. I just, there are enough questions. I feel it should go on a little further than a consent item.
So do we have any members of the public that want to offer comment at this point?
Josh has had his hand up for a while.
I have not seen it. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, Dusty, you basically said what I was going to say. I was going to piggyback on David's thing and go down to the next paragraph in the report, and Public Works' original preference for site access, and it said the applicant should provide information as to whether or not an agreement has been discussed and whether it could be obtained. I'd want to know a little more about that. And I'm with you that if you imagine coming off of Route 15 onto Sand Hill, that's a left-hand turn to get into this. And you're right, if that stacks up even a little bit, and you imagine either the morning commute in or the afternoon commute out, or picking up from Essex Elementary, or rather on the middle school, and that's just a lot of stacked up traffic, and it's not something I can support. So Dusty, I just really want to ditto what you said there. That's it.
Okay. Do we have additional, Chad?
Yeah, this is Joe Bissonette, the property owner. And I think we have submitted numerous designs. Not really sure why you don't have those. We've talked to the owner, Dave Simendinger of the store next door, who actually wished us well. But the big thing, I think the operation is from 11 to 8. And we have, according to, with the zoning board, we've decided to close the site from 2 to 4 to alleviate the traffic issue, as well as the place isn't open Monday and Tuesday. It's Wednesday through Sunday. So that's how it's going to work during the weekdays during the school year. So for May and part of June, whenever school's in session, the food trailer will be closed from 2 to 4.
Okay, thank you. Darren, did you want to offer comment?
Yes, thank you, Dusty. 2 quick things. We do have site plans from the applicant. Chad, I don't know if you had elevations or any sort of design of the look of the proposal, but to answer Ned's concern about aesthetics, this is, just to clarify, this is outside the business design control district, in case that's what you were thinking. That's it.
Okay. So I'm going to bring this back to the commissioners for a moment. We're still in the public hearing, public comment section. But before we move on, we spent a fair amount of time discussing this beyond what we normally do for consent agenda items. So I want us to be aware of that. Is there anyone from the public or the commission that wants to offer any additional comment in the public comment section?
David, I mean, I would just say, a couple things. The ZBA went through this and conditioned this and was comfortable with it. It got conditional use approval. to Sharon's point, it's coming back in a couple years. The abutting neighbor's good with it. I go by this property multiple times a day during the times that it would be open on my way back and forth to my facility in Jericho. And the traffic is not stacked at that intersection. There's one, maybe two cars. The only time it ever gets stacked is during school drop off and pickup. So, I mean, I think if there were major concerns with traffic and site circulation, we would have heard it from some of the sources that reviewed the app. So, I mean, my level of comfort is for a couple of years is good enough to move this forward.
Okay. Thanks, David.
John Alden, I'm with David.
Okay. John Mangan, do you have any thoughts?
I think I've been leaning with David as well on this as I've been thinking through. I'm hearing the concerns, but in general, I'm okay with it.
Okay. So I'm gonna. Who am I missing? Shu, are you here? No. Okay. Sharon. Question?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make a comment to make sure the traffic improvements are scheduled to have a traffic light installed there, and that's tentative right now for 2022. So again, that will alleviate a lot of the, I think, concerns that people are worried about, because with the way it is currently, it is sometimes tough to get through, but it's definitely, I confirmed with AOT, and a traffic light is definitely slated for 2022.
Just like it was slated for 2019.
Well, true,
so
but
I want to make one more comment, and we keep talking about how, you know, the things will be alleviated in a year or 2 years, and quite frankly, I'm not going to belabor this any more than this, but I think an unsafe situation today or an unsafe situation tomorrow, when we have control of it, is inappropriate to let it happen. If it's safer when the traffic light goes in, great. Expand the use then. So enough said on that. If there's no more commentary from the public, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is actually the site plan consent agenda item. And at this stage, I would take a motion from somebody to either approve the consent agenda item or do something else with it.
So this is David. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minor site plan for Joseph Bissonette and Chad Riley for their proposal to operate a food truck located at 217 Sand Hill Road in the medium density residential R2 district. Tax map 50, parcel 42, staff report revised and distributed the latest version as written.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second. John Alden.
John Alden. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional discussion? Okay. So knowing this in advance, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Ned.
No.
David.
Yes.
John Alden.
Yes.
John Mangan.
Yes.
Josh.
No.
And myself, Dustin, that's a no. So motion to approve the consent agenda item fails for lack of a majority. So at this point, we have two options to move this, to do something with three options. We can have a motion to deny. We can have a request to continue this as a regular application. And that's actually, so we only have two options. So
Well,
do we have thoughts on this?
That's up to the applicant, right? I mean, at this point, the motion to approve was failed, so that means the application didn't pass. So it's really up to the applicant at this point whether they want to request that it go forward as a full, unless I'm missing something.
And we still have, it's still an active consent agenda item on our application or on our agenda this evening. We haven't approved it. We haven't denied it.
May I speak?
Sure.
So if you motion to continue the public hearing for a full, to the next available meeting in hopes for a full slate, I guess that.
Well,
would be a-
currently there is no public hearing on it.
Well,
It's
you
not
can,
warned as a public hearing.
you can pull it off the consent agenda and open the public hearing and then continue it.
Tell you what, let's dot all the i's on this one. I make a motion to deny the consent agenda item as presented this evening, both in staff report and in discussion.
I'll second that.
Josh is the second on that. Roll call. Ned,
Aye.
David,
No.
John Alden,
No.
John Mangan.
No.
Who's left? Josh, myself, Dustin. That's a yay. So again, the motion to deny fails for lack of a majority. So, Chad, there's an option here. If you want to continue this forward, then we will open a public hearing and continue this to a later date. Looking for your input on this.
Hi, this is Chad. What is it that I would need to do to continue with this?
Well, you've got one commissioner, Ned, who's wanted, I believe, correct me, Ned, if I'm wanted, but you wanted more detail on the waste management?
Detail on both the waste management and the architectural presentation, which was not included in our package. And so it's probably kind of late to show us that now. So that would have to be something in a continuation also.
Well, I think Chad's asking for process. Are you asking for process, Chad?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what my next step is. I definitely don't want to give up on this.
So process-wise, Chad, we could motion to pull this from the consent agenda and open the public hearing. Given that we don't have enough information tonight to do a full hearing because you've heard some of the concerns, there would be a motion to continue the application to the next available meeting, both that you and staff agree to, and then it would go to a full hearing where you would have an opportunity to address the concerns and present additional information, and it would, lots of questions and
And if I may add that if it's continued, Chad, we don't need to recertify abutters, but we would certainly send out a notice that it was continued and tell them when the new hearing would be. So, and then we would probably take this off as a consent written letter, and we would just propose findings and conditions, and we would add the additional information that you would provide, such as the wastewater that's been asked for, the cleaning of the barrels, and the, sorry, I already turned the page, and the architectural design. So I can work with you behind the scenes on that. So if you're not ready to give up on this, then I would encourage you to accept their continuance.
Yep. Do I have to give them the print, or do you give them the print? Because we do have a print.
So I think at this stage, what we're looking for tonight is just your desire to move this forward, Chad. And I think Sharon can work with you on the greater level of details. And I think that's, if you've got information, we can get it. To your benefit, maybe there's, one commissioner wasn't present tonight, so there'd be another voice to be able to listen in on this.
That commissioner is trying to jump on, but he's having trouble with the link, FYI.
Okay,
Dustin, can I just add one thing?
sure.
I just think we should clarify. So to Ned's comment on wastewater, I just want to know it's not wastewater, it's gray water, and there is a difference, a big difference. Water is classified by anything that has like raw sewage in it. Gray water is much safer, and it can actually, and a lot of times it's just reused as is. So I just want to make sure we make that clear if he does have to walk away and come back with some type of a plan, and it's definitely not wastewater.
I think these are the kind of things, I think most of us understand what gray water is, but these are the kind of things that we need to know about up front when the application is either put in initially or when it comes back to us.
Okay. Let me make a motion to move the,
Hold on.
Chad, your hands up. Go ahead, Chad. Chad, did you want to ask? Okay, go ahead.
No.
You're not. Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's fine.
I don't have.
Let me make a motion to remove this from the consent agenda and move it in as a what would this be, a site plan?
Minor site plan.
Minor site plan, and that's the motion. And then once we get that moved, then we'll open a public hearing and continue it.
Second the motion. David?
Moved by Dustin, seconded by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. If John Schumacher gets on board, just let me know. So the application is now on the agenda as a minor site plan. I'd like to further make a motion to open the public hearing on this.
Second, David?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Public hearing is open. Third motion.
John Schumacher just joined for the record.
Thanks, David. The third motion, I'd like to continue this application to the next available and appropriate date based on staff interaction with the applicant.
I'll second that.
David. Oh, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, second, Josh.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Motion has been made. So this is now a minor site plan, full application. Public hearing is open. We're looking for gray water management, enhanced gray water management, essentially elevations for the pictures of the truck or whatever. And anything else? Hey, Shu.
Dusty, would you like additional information on traffic? I know that was a concern raised by you and Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst case scenario on this is that the traffic coming off from Route 15, if there's any stacking whatsoever, and I understand that the time of day, you're talking about being open isn't going to necessarily, it's going to cut down and mitigate some of that, but I'm thinking Saturdays. I'm thinking rush hour in the evening. I'm thinking Saturdays all day long. I think it's a significant concern.
So am I hearing you want a traffic study?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm trying to avoid being absolute on this, but I'm expressing that I have a significant concern as one commissioner, a very significant concern with the presentation of traffic coming off from Route 15 and the negative impact it could have if there's even a single vehicle waiting to turn left into this site. So, for example, no left turns into this site would be a way to mitigate that. I'm not looking to provide a solution, but I'm looking to prevent a negative situation with the traffic coming off from Route 15. That corner has already been redesigned at least once, if not twice, to accommodate traffic concerns. And I don't think it's appropriate for us to make more and make it worse. But this is where people that can get creative can work on this. But again, we only need 4. So let's not forget that we've got 7 commissioners to make this work.
This is John. Is there any estimate of the potential number of visits a day that we're thinking about here? I mean, I kind of feel like we're, for a 2-year project, looking at this as a food truck, I think I can't imagine there's going to be enough traffic here to modify or change the existing traffic issues that are already there. So the traffic gets a little heavy on the weekends because everyone's out sightseeing and joyriding. Give them a place to stop. This is a great idea, and I think you're overestimating the number of people that are going to be waiting to turn in.
Just takes one.
Just takes one. But
that's why we have a full commission, though. That's why we've got 7 people to look at this and 7 people to weigh in. So I think this is to give the applicant the best answer, the best response is let's get it in front of the full commission and let's get it nailed down. Okay.
I mean, do we have enough to hear it now? I mean, shoe is on.
I don't without seeing what it's going to look like.
So
well, it's not in the
it's
business
probably...
design control overlay district, so we don't have a lot of say there.
Yeah, we've let. Oh, never mind.
So we voted to continue. We can make another motion, and Shu, if you feel you've got commentary that you'd like to add to this, we can make a motion to bring it back. To I don't know, negate the continuance.
Well, I'm sorry I'm late. I just had a little bit of a technological disaster this afternoon. But anyway, managed to get in front of me. What I'd like to know is where the other motions where you've gotten to. It seems like you've pulled it out of consent and you've made it into an application. Is that right?
Correct. And then we open the public hearing.
Yeah.
And then we had a motion to continue so that it could be brought back and looked at with the greater detail that Ned was looking for.
And I was unable to vote because I hadn't gotten my mic up yet, but you can count me as a vote to continue, but I didn't catch when the continuation was until.
We didn't have a date
available.
Okay.
So.
And I missed all of the testimony, so I'm not sure that I can, I'm not sure I'm aware of all the discussion going on.
Without going into the details, let me ask: Did you have a feeling one way or the other on this application?
Yeah, I had some safety concerns, but in general, I was okay with it. So I would have liked to have, I was sort of on the fence, but more leaning towards accepting it. But would have liked to have heard what the rest of it is, and I apologize to everybody for being late.
I think we can turn this around pretty quick and get this on the next meeting as a continuance, and we can get the information that Ned has asked for and Dusty stated. And between that and the minutes, I think Shu would be able to, and as will the whole board, be able to make a quick decision.
And Darren, I should be able to review the video, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Okay. So let's move forward on that. That's the longest consent agenda item I think we've ever discussed.
Well, it isn't consent anymore.
That's true. It was.
You're trending upwards with those.
Okay, so we clear on that. This is now site plan, a minor site plan, and it has been continued to the next available date that Sharon and Darren and Oiso will work out with the applicant, and hopefully the next meeting. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is a sketch site plan public hearing for Renee and Brad LaFountain. This is a proposal for a 3-lot PUD at 109 Brigham Hill Road in the AR zone. Darren, do you want to give us an orientation on that, or is there any discussion points? Give us bring us up to speed, please.
Yes. Before I dive into a review of the application, I do want to note that the applicant and the applicant's engineer are not present tonight. Paul O'Leary is representing them, and I believe they will be requesting a continuance. But I am happy to dive into the issues at hand, since we do have several members of the public who are present in regards to this application.
Do we want to, so to the commissioners, do we want to potentially do this twice, or do we want to, does anybody have any feelings on this one way or the other?
Yeah, if I can just jump in for a second, Dustin, we are planning on coming back with a revised plan to address some of the neighbors' comments and some of the staff comments. So, whether you want to take the time tonight or wait until we come back with a revised plan, obviously that's at your discretion.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Commissioners, we can open the public hearing and take comment from neighbors if you'd like, and then continue this and do the full discussion when they come back. Like the folks who did it. Go ahead.
It seems a little bit of a waste of time to spend a lot of time discussing comments and discussing a plan if Paul has indicated that their intent is to pull that plan and submit a new one. So I think we ought to not spend a lot of time. I wouldn't mind having a couple-minute discussion on the restrictions in the agreement, just to kind of set the tone, or at least maybe show my hand on where my head's at, but that's your call.
I'd like to give the folks who did take, we're joining us this evening. I'd like to make sure that they have a chance to chime in, and then I think we probably would continue. I don't know that I would agree, David. I'd like not to go into detail tonight and then have to go into detail again on a different plan.
Well, yeah, especially if, the comments are going to be around a proposed plan that the neighbors have all seen, which Paul has just indicated they're going to change.
Yeah. So before we go to the folks that are in the audience, and I see, Alexander, I see that you've got your hand raised, so I'll go to you in a second. Why don't we open the public hearing?
I move we open the public hearing. This is Josh.
Second.
Seconded by Ned. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. Alexander, you had a question.
Yeah, no, hi. I represent a number of the neighbors, and I'll just read them into the record very quickly to demonstrate that they're here. It's Caitlin and Blair Haxel, Jim and Betty Barch, Nathan and Alyssa Beeman. You have a memo from us that was submitted into the record. No issue with continuance, would suggest doing it once. If Mr. O'Leary's gonna do a new site plan, I wouldn't do it twice. No concern with continuance, would support it. Just wanted to put that into the record.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question? Okay. All right, so it sounds like we've got agreement to, or the most appropriate point at this stage would be to continue. So I would take a motion from someone to continue this.
I move we continue the public hearing.
Moved by Josh.
Second. David.
Second by Dave.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Josh moved to continue. Josh seconded by Dave. And that would be as a date determined by staff.
Next available. Yeah, for once the application comes in.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So this is continued So we'll hear this in more detail or in detail when it comes back. Okay.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
just let
Paul.
and just to tell the neighbors that you will get a regular notice of this in the mail, not a certified mailing, since it's a continuance.
Sharon, can you make sure I get that too as counsel for neighbors?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
You too.
Okay, onward. ETC next discussion. Darren, do you want to, or Aliso, do you guys want to jump us into this?
Sure. So a couple of weeks ago, we staff worked on revisions to the order of the ETC next, and those were posted by Darren on the G Drive, and we hope that you had a chance to look at them and give us and are ready to give us some feedback tonight. We haven't inserted the images yet, just because that tends to be a labor-intensive process, and if you wanted to reorganize it again, then or if you had any questions or issues with our organization, then it would just be wasted time. So feedback is what we're looking for tonight on the reorganization of the document.
Okay. Anybody want to jump in?
This is Josh here. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for bolding better connected and more cohesive. It's taken a year to get us there, but here we are. It's like Van Halen with the green M&Ms. I really appreciate it.
And Sammy. Keep
Yeah,
going,
no,
Sammy.
exactly.
Sammy,
Exactly.
are you Sammy or David today?
Oh, Diamond Dave, obviously.
Okay.
But I know on the whole, I liked it. And one of the things, if I can call out sort of a specific thing that sort of set the tone is, let me find a good example. The policy point little boxes.
Great.
That as sort of a signal really set the tone of making it more accessible to the lay reader, which, as you recall, is one of my other wishes throughout this whole process. Like policy point, role of the ETC, policy point, density and form, and then you have the problem, and then you have a quick solution. And so that reorganization of it, I really liked a great deal. And it seemed, you'll appreciate this, the document itself seemed better connected and more cohesive than it had before.
Great.
And that was, as you recall, that is all I was asking for. So I'm very pleased with how this has changed and would endorse continuing in this direction.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh, for the, yeah.
Hey, John Alden, since you and Josh were our super users on this.
I lost something here, but yes, I feel the same way. I mean, it's a little tricky without the images, because a lot of our comments had to do with why the images that were being presented had maybe not the direct relationship to the text that was adjacent to them. So that's still a big thing for me. But basically, we're seeing the page count come down. We're seeing the important things brought to the front. We're seeing, the readability improve just because it's not so long and dense. That I agree with Josh. I think that's moving in the right direction. I can't wait to see the whole thing come together. Some of the chapters that are already, full of images are starting to look really good, and I think we're in good shape.
Great.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Yeah, Ned, I would agree that it's much more readable. And I think it's a step, that we wanted and needed. I think at this point, we really need to put it together and go on. I think some of the little kids that were born when we started this are now finishing second grade or something, you know, so, yeah. Let's
Terrible.
put the damn thing together.
Ned, do I sense some concern on timelines on your part?
No, not at all. But I think, no, I honestly think that, you know, at some point you have to take the next step, and we should work to be able to take that next step as soon as possible, you know, despite the somewhat chaotic online meetings that are taking place. You know, I'd like to have it ready, so maybe when we start having meetings in person, if ever, this can really start some discussion with the select boards and move it forward.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a really good comment. We I think we can run with it after getting your feedback, and we can actually take another look at it and get and include more dialogue boxes where those can help sort of bring it down to the average person's interest level, maybe, or experience with zoning, or various zoning issues. We are going, what's your name? SE Group has agreed to work with us on the last part, inserting the images, because some of the maps will have to be altered, and that was just in the interest of their time, of the time that we were asking them to put in additionally, and our time as well. That's why we hadn't inserted the images, but I think we can pretty much run from here.
So I would say, to echo Josh's point about the call out boxes, you know, make sure that those are really good. I mean, I sit here and go through this again, and the fact that is, as Josh said, more cohesive, better connected was the theme we wanted showing throughout. Having those policy points throughout and tied to the main headings, that really identifies for someone what the section is and what they're trying to do. So, you know, quite honestly, you could make a document just of those policy points and have it be meaningful. I'm not saying do that, but that would be the crib notes version.
No, Darren and I were having fun with that, actually, and we're glad that you're receptive to it.
Because you lose what a section is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're trying to solve.
Right.
David, what are your thoughts?
I'm good. I'm going to be honest. I need to spend more time with it. I did way too much prep for Brigham Hill. That's and Darren's laughing because I was on him for a lot of information. So, you know, I'll be a black belt for Brigham Hill, and I'm leaving it to brighter minds on ETC Next.
Okay. Shoo, you're laughing at us.
Yeah, I'm laughing at myself. I feel like crawling under my desk and going to sleep. No, I think the ETC Next document is looking great, but I'm a little bit with Dave. I didn't get a chance to really dig through it prior to this meeting, so I feel pretty useless, actually. But it looks great, and I agree with what Josh said. I like the little boxes with the policy point. Those are awesome.
Well, feel free to send us any feedback, you know, individually as you're going through it, Dave and Shu. And so I don't know if we want to talk a little more about Chapter 6 tonight.
Hang on a second.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Okay.
So hang on a second. John Mangan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and yeah, I was going to say the same thing to back up Josh's thing. I knew that would please Josh when I saw that the better connected, more cohesive was goal. And I agree with that.
We all
very
know
good. And I think it's ready for the images, and then we can take it to the next level.
I say so. The direction you've got an affirmative. You know, everybody's on board with what you're doing. Keep it going. You implied you had some questions.
Yes, definitely. About moving forward and chapter 6, which is where you need to make decisions about form-based code or hybrid code.
Personally, I don't want to see the term form-based code anywhere in the document.
I will make that note. I'm with you on that. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe we'll mention that it was considered, but we seem to have pretty clear consensus from you folks that that is not the direction we want to go in.
Okay.
Other things on chapter 6 that we can talk about if we want, either tonight or for you to consider at a future meeting. There's a lot of stuff about infrastructure in there, and we have some minor edits to make since, as Ned said, this has been going on for a while and things have changed as we've moved through this. But ultimately, I think we'll want to have a pretty in-depth discussion, probably with the select board as well, about what infrastructure in the ETC looks like, how it happens, and how it gets put in place, and who maintains it and manages it. So something we can maybe save for another night.
Okay.
Hey, Darren, this is John. I'm gonna reiterate something we talked about a long time ago, but that is let's keep the vision in this document and keep all the rest of the stuff out of it. I'm not sure we want to drag everybody through how we're going to do it. I think we want to tell them what our vision is. And, there's going to be hundreds of pages and lots of argument about who pays for it and when does it happen and how does it happen and all that kind of thing. And I would encourage us not to get too far into the weeds on that one. And moreover, just we need to tell people what this is going to look like. How does it feel? What does it smell like? And not all the rest of it. So.
Good point. Thanks, John. We'll try to keep that in mind as we look at this again.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for that. That actually
So,
really sort of summarizes things nicely.
Yeah. Do you feel at this point, Wiso or Darren, is there more that we need to provide you on this tonight? To me, this felt like a pretty big step forward.
Darren can disagree, but I think that we're ready to take that next step, add the images, and really kind of get it going, bring it together.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we will probably want to have a more in-depth discussion again about the details of zoning. Obviously, we know not form-based code, but there's still a lot of options out there, and just sort of figuring out what that looks like. But at the same time, you've said, we want to focus on the vision and get this plan right, and the zoning will come later once we dig into the weeds. So yeah, we should just be clear, make sure that we have everything in the plan that sets us on that right path.
The plan should enable the zoning regulations, but the plan shouldn't be the zoning regulations, is my thoughts.
Right.
So that we'd had discussions early on about, the plan being specific to the number of feet you could do this, or the number of, it made it very redundant to the regulations themselves. So I think echoing John Alden's point, real specifically, this should be the enabler, not the enforcer.
Yep. And I think we've added some stuff into the other chapters that kind of gives them more guardrails on where that will go. So I think we're feeling pretty good about it.
Okay. All right, then let's move on from there. And moving on means going home, I think. Oh, minutes. We got to do minutes.
Do minutes. Yeah.
Let me get back to the minutes. I actually have the minutes within view today. Do we have a motion on the minutes? Who was that?
John.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Aye, John Mangan.
Okay. John moved, John seconded. Does anyone want to offer any adjustments to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes pass 7-0. Okay. No air conditioning, John Schumacher?
I figure I deserve to be a little bit in the fire here.
But you didn't start the fire.
No, well, I certainly didn't help it any.
Okay. Any other business that we need to touch on?
None that I know of.
None that I know of.
Nope.
Take a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Oh, hold on that. This is the last meeting in, this the last meeting? Yeah, this is the last meeting in June. So next full meeting is election of officers. So be thinking about who wants to be where. And if you have thoughts about taking, about being in one of the positions, any of them, please either let me know or let OESO know.
And we did put on the agenda discussion amongst PC members as 1 and 2 election of officers.
Okay. So routinely we do it the first meeting in July that we have a full slate.
Right.
So that's what we'll aim for unless people want to do it differently.
And Dusty, just real quick, we don't have any pending changes to operating procedures that you want to consider, correct? Since we're on the subject.
There were a couple, but
We can.
I didn't put those on yet, but yes, there were a couple that I wanted to throw out there for you.
Okay. We have the option of doing those at any point in time, so that can be done. Okay. All right. David moved to adjourn. Does anyone want a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Shu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.